Hey, what's up, guys? It's the DRMB podcast. We are back. It's been a long time. We're back with a renewed favor, and we are talking about the community test environment. With me, we've got editor Beardy, Bohica, Replicant, Punisher, and many others, and we're going to talk about the special new shiny server that the Dice gods have given us from high on top of their mountain so we can break their game for them. So, we're going to start right off. Beardy, why don't you tell us what the community test environment actually is?
Okay, basically, lots of not so AAA games like Armor, Daisy, PlanetSide, they have a special branch of the build where the developers can test new features, fixes, things which will be coming in the future, make sure that they work properly, how they should, and fix things which have been like ongoing problems. And the idea was brought up back in December for something similar for Battlefield, and we finally got it. It's a separate branch of the game. It's a 15 gig download, and it's them testing new features for like the net code and all these other like hip phrases like tick rate to see if we can get a better shooter experience from the game. And yeah, there's mixed results across the board from everyone, and
Well,
we'll be discussing that.
it's kind of interesting because this is something I've been pushing for since Bad Company 2, when server rentals were starting to become an actual thing. I always thought it'd be interesting to rent a server and just have access to everything. Just let us tweak gun rates and whatever. And sure, you'd find some crazy things like all of a sudden you're fully automatic shotguns and everything else. But if you could tweak certain things and find out, hey, this gun's broken, but changing this setting fixed it, maybe DICE would be able to, help the game and help all the players without having to do these massive patches that end up breaking something else. So it's
Yes.
interesting that it's finally coming out. That they finally, in the fourth iteration of the Battlefield series, they're actually using it. So it is kind of interesting.
Back
Now,
in Battlefield 1942, like sorry to interrupt there, like
okay.
we had mod tools and such, like we could change the game files ourselves and run customized servers. But where Battlefield is now built on a engine which is bespoke to EA, but it's made up of technologies from lots of different companies, it would be a licensing issue for us to be able to modify the game. It would just cost them too much to give us mod tools.
Right.
So we are kind of limited to their patches. Like we can give them as much feedback as we want, but there's only so much they can do in their time frame.
Well, exactly. There's only so much they can do with their limited QA department. I assume they don't
Yeah.
keep a QA department, on hand after the game launches.
They have a small QA department. I think it's about 10 or so guys. Some of them are on Twitter and you can follow them, and they're quite transparent about the process. But when you're thinking you're employing like a full QA team of like 20, 30 guys for a development cycle of like 3 years, it comes to well over $1 million in salaries just for QA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where the community can kind of do that
Do it for free.
for them. Exactly. So, Paul, what do you kind of think? Like, what's the goal? What's the end goal of the CTE?
Well, I think really the end goal is just a better experience for the end user, which is, us. I think it gives us an opportunity to be able to express our opinions with, updates that they've done, features that they've implemented, and it gives us an opportunity to give them direct feedback, without, prior to them putting anything out. Kind of before they were, just basically kind of pawning off this crap to us, and and then we would have to deal with it for a couple months before, or a month or so, or at least before they would come out with a new patch. And I think this now gives us an opportunity to be able to give them that direct feedback so that they can say, the community doesn't like this change, so we won't implement it. Or they'll, in the event of the tick rate, the overwhelming majority of the community is in favor of it. So, more than likely now they're going to implement that. So I really think that, a great thing in terms of that.
Sorry, I just took down a heli with an
Devin.
RPG. Yeah!
Devin goes crazy.
I was really impressed with myself.
I will say there was a post on the CTE forum earlier from Tiggy, the David from Dice LA. Apparently, the CTE changes are in the final stages of being confirmed for like live release on the normal servers. So we'll be looking at like the tick rate increase on live servers within like the next couple of weeks, I imagine.
Yeah, that's nice. It would be nice to be able to get those out a little faster. Now I understand they got to keep, now 5 different, the 4 consoles and PC similar. You don't want tons of different builds on every one, but it's great that they're being able to test this now instead of 3 months later, where it seems like we used to only get a patch when, as Devin gets killed on the wall, we only get a patch whenever new DLC comes out, which kind of really rubbed me the wrong way. I don't want to, hey, you paid for this, now we get to fix the broken game a little bit more. So hopefully that comes out a little bit quicker. Now with tick rate, we just had a question from the chat. What is it better when it's pushed to the max, or is it kind of, is there a balance in between?
It feels better. For the most part, it feels better.
I think there's a balance though, because I think if they increase the tick rate too much, I think it'll be overtaxing on the servers, because there's just so much data that's transferring between both of them. So I think they got to try to find that happy medium between giving us as much data as we can process without overtaxing the servers and the client.
Right. In the CT at the moment, it's gone from like 10 hertz, so like 10 refreshes per second, to 30, which is a 300% increase in data. It's gone from like 15 kbs to 45 kbs, which isn't really that much when you think about it, but when you think that's to the server from the client to the client from the server, and it's doing that like to 64 players, and it's doing it like 30 times a second, it rapidly builds up. On the CT at the moment, there's an option where you can change your connection to the server. You can either have it as the original 10, you can have it as 20 or 30, like depending on what you find is better. And since the 3rd CT patch, there's been complaints that the game doesn't feel as smooth at 30, which is being looked into at the moment.
Oh, okay, so there's a balance there. They can't just crank it up and, hey, all of a sudden we're CSGO.
The game itself, the engine, Frostbite, is limited to 30 hertz. That is the maximum it can achieve, because it's a cap instilled on the Xbox One and PS4. Like, they are maxed at 30 hertz for like anyone that has a data cap or anything like that. So it is maxed at 30 for them, so they max it at 30 for us for same experience that the consoles get.
Is there no way for them to separate those out though?
They probably
or is it just
could,
too much work? I mean,
it's too much work at this stage. That's my opinion on it. It's too much work. They're already halfway through the DLC cycle. Like, all the work has been like pushed off onto Dice LA now, which is a much smaller studio than Dice Europe.
Yeah, and they're working on the next big thing too.
Yeah,
as well.
like Dice Sweden have got Battlefront on their cards at the moment. They've got Mirror's Edge 2, and there's rumours of a Bad Company 3 and such as well, but it's all like just rumours at the moment. So you've got like a skeleton crew at Dice LA working on the rest of the game, like the DLC, Dragon's Teeth, which we'll be seeing in a few weeks, and then Final Stand, and any last balances, and the CTE stuff. So, in theory they could make the PC client like 60 hertz, but it would mean such a big rewrite of the multiplayer engine itself that it doesn't really warrant it. It's not financially viable.
Is them charging $110 per person with premium financially viable?
True. True.
Yeah.
I know
For
it's,
them, it is.
yeah, exactly. It is tough to ask them to put tons and tons of. I gotta word this correctly. It should have came out at the beginning. Is what I'm eventually gonna get
Yeah.
at. You know, we shouldn't
Correct.
be playing around with these things now. This should have been a 2-month beta thing that we should have been playing with. But I guess that's beside the point at this
Yeah.
stage in the game.
The
That's
problem
been the
with AAA
gripe.
titles now, AAA titles, there's so much secrecy involved in them. They like Battlefield wants to be Call of Duty wants to be Battlefield, that we don't get betas like we used to because they're worried that in the last remnants of the development cycle, anything that's seen in like their game, the competitors can then put into theirs. So that's why we don't get these like betas anymore. We get a demo which is like it doubles as a server infrastructure beta.
Yeah, and it barely doubles as that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that was one good thing about Titanfall, where they said we are going to limit servers so we can crash them. We're going to find out where the crash limit is, and then we're gonna go out from there. Like surprising
did it.
everybody.
Yeah. What confuses me the most though is like when we had the Battlefield beta, servers ran surprisingly smooth, and then the release a few weeks later, the servers were atrocious. So there must have been a change between that earlier build we played and the release build, which changed something with the servers. But that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that they're toying around with this at this stage in the game. You know, I would like to credit Dan, the new community manager, with this. I don't know. It must have been in the works before, but it seemed like he actually is doing something now, which I really appreciate. As much as everybody gives Daniel Matros hell, BC2 days, early BC3, man, he was on the ball. He tweeted him something, answered, whatever. I don't know what changed there or whatever, but...
Well, he got a promotion, didn't he?
Yeah, and then we went to Crash, and Crash was a super nice guy.
Didn't get much information.
Yeah. So we've got the net code, we've got the tick rates. We can basically use those interchangeably at this point. What other additions or reductions do they have in the game?
Well, we're on the 3rd CTE patch at the moment, and the number one initiative is the netcode. But in this 3rd patch, they've reduced screen shake in the game all round, not just from Levolution, but from grenades, RPGs, helicopters blowing up in your face, because everybody's been complaining about the screen shake. So they're actually listening, and they have reduced it, and it is noticeable, I will say. It's a lot of people will say, can we turn it down more? I liked it how it was. I like that shaky, immersion-y, oh my god, everything's exploding, I think I'm gonna die sort of feel to it. But yeah, they've reduced the screen shake by, I don't know what the actual figure is.
I'm a huge fan.
It's
I'd
not
just like to
100%, though.
raise my hand and just say I'm a huge fan of that, because that is,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal to me,
Hey,
because
they're
that's one of the
adding
things.
back in, squad join.
Yeah, that's one of the
Wow.
things I
Yep.
just
Yeah.
Now, a quick sidebar. If they continue to take things out, like
Yeah.
right now they don't have Levolution in the CTE, is that not some sort of false advertising? Where you
No.
promote
It's,
it?
It's course
it's a
correction.
testing. It's the first few days of the CTE, the initial patch, there was no changes, and people were saying, oh my god, it's so much better, even though they had changed nothing. They were literally using it as a baseline which they could work from. And then the first patch came out, and we saw the increase of tick rate from 10 Hz to 30 Hz. The second one came out, and there was more changes in that department and stability fixes. Then the third one, we got an option where it's we can change our own tick rate on the client, as well as more fixes and this and that. But I think at some stage they will re-enable it, like probably in the next couple of weeks, to test how it handles with Levolution involved as well. But yeah, I think it's disabled at the moment purely for a testing system, not that they're just going to remove evolution from the game.
Yeah, I hope not. That would be pretty scary.
That's a big change. People have been saying, can we remove evolution from servers, like a server variable, and that'd be cool for like competitive games where if you're playing say Paracel and you're playing competitively and you don't want Storm to come in, if you could turn that off, that'd be great in a competitive match. But to remove one of the selling points from the actual game, I think that's a lot of people would not be happy about that.
Well, that's a really good point. Like, what if you had a server rental and you were just allowed to play around with that? Like, not talking fully modding, making another game, but, you know, what if Levolution was just a tick box? Untick it, no Levolution.
A lot of people have been asking for that, and we might see something along those lines. Like, there's been no official chatter about it, but a lot of people have asked for it. So maybe in the future, who knows?
Yeah, because this whole Battlefield is competitive thing is pretty much laughingstock at this point.
It has amazing potential. You know, the diffuse game mode is textbook search and destroy, but on Battlefield maps with Battlefield's weapon system and with the destructible maps. And I've played diffuse quite a bit. It's really enjoyable. And there's the competitive obliteration mode coming in as well, which seems really enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
But with the netcode, I hate that phrase, but with the netcode how it's been since release, it's really not that viable. I watch competitive Battlefield on the ESL tournaments, and the guys love it until they lose, and then they blame the game. And you know, these are guys that are getting paid to play, and they love it when they're winning. But as soon as they lose, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe we play this competitively. And I was like, well, dude, you pick to, but
yeah, it's tough. It's I still believe there's too much in the game for competitive wise. You really need to limit. You know, not only do the maps have to be balanced from both spawns, but the guns have to be balanced, and there's too many guns, and then the attachments have to be balanced, and there's too many attachments, and the vehicles have to be balanced, and there's too many attachments and guns, and you know, on and on and on. So it's you can't play rock paper scissors with all that because it's just you know, it ends up turning into a spawn and
yeah, I mean, I think that's a really valid point. You know, you could do it if you sort of cut everything down by, you know, to a quarter, and they sort of had a competitive mode, you know. I mean, we'll probably never see that, but I think that, you know, that would be a good point. Almost like how Counter-Strike has casual and competitive. I mean, even though they're, you know, they're not that different, but it would be interesting to see that, because then it would be more viable, you know.
They could do that as a server setting, because you've got hardcore, you've got official, you've got custom. There's talk of classic mode coming back in its traditional form of Battlefield 2 style, where you've got less health, spotting is limited, and all sorts of things. So there's talk of that coming back. They could probably put a competitive mode in where you could like customize it, where you could limit weapons, attachments, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
If you watch competitive Battlefield, everyone is using an Ace 23, a Scar H, or an Ace 52.
Right.
Like, no one really uses anything else at the moment, because those
or
are like
AEK.
three.
Yeah,
or the AEK.
It's true. I mean, but you know, I think similar can be said to CS. I mean, you're either using an AK, an M4, or an AWP, you know, or maybe a P90 once in a while, but you're not really, you know. So, and of course, nobody complains about the AK-47. But anyway, you know what I mean? Like,
there's a, I'm sorry, there's a question on the chat. They asked, do you think that the game has become too accessible? They're talking about
I do. Me and Devin had this conversation the other day.
Yeah.
Like, I've started playing first-person shooters with Battlefield Vietnam a decade ago. I went back to 1942, then Battlefield 2, and then I went and played Call of Duty competitively. So I missed the old days where Battlefield was difficult. It was hard to play and it required teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Call of Duty was your casual like shooter, Battlefield was when you wanted like to really set something up. But it probably is a bit too accessible to some degree to people like me, but that's how they're gonna make their money.
No,
Like-
that's what they wanted. They went from Bad Company 2, in my mind, was such a small game. It was a hit for them,
Yeah.
and they thought, hey, what if we can take down COD?
Yeah.
Which is makes no sense. There's no reason to take shots at the king. There's just, you have your little corner, they have whatever they want. If you fight them, it's just going to end badly. They've got
Exactly. It
Kobe
becomes an
Bryant
arms
in
race.
video game commercials. You're just not going to be able to outspend them. And then we got the, I don't know, I guess BF3 is terrible now, but at the start it was pretty bad. So now we're at this like halfway point where people with tablets can play commander mode, and then you can hop in, but then also there's all these things you can unlock, so play often. It's really, the balance isn't there yet, and they haven't found what they want to do. It's not full on infantry, it's not full on vehicles, it's not competitive, it's not casual, it's a mix of everything.
They are trying to fulfill a lot of roles. I think that's the problem. When Bad Company came along, and I really enjoyed Bad Company. It was a really fun game, but it took the Battlefield name and it applied sort of like a Call of Duty like sort of aspect to it. It was fun, it was quirky.
It was fast.
Yeah, and it was fast, whereas Battlefield 2 was anything but fast.
Yeah.
It was slow, you had to push, it was methodical.
The
was-
weapons have recoil. You got to control
Yeah.
them. You got to,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was an authentic experience.
yeah, a little more authentic. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then they sort of diluted it down with Bad Company, which it was good for their sales, it was good for marketing, but it did kind of dilute the Battlefield community because a lot of the COD guys did come over, and that's not a bad thing. I'm a COD guy myself.
Oh yeah.
And it's
All right, well, get the hell out.
yeah, I know.
Hey, I like Black Ops 2.
I'm Beardy FPS, and I did play Call of Duty competitively for about 6 years. But
All right. Well, podcast over. Thanks a lot, Beardy.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Snowing you.
I have to leave now. But
Hey, I played
Now-
Medal of Honor competitively a long time ago.
yeah,
On
No,
a
wait, which
side
one?
note with that, with the
Allied
CTE,
Assault.
if they took the CTE implementations and features we have now, and they added that into the retail, I really think that a lot of those guys that are lower skill are going to be highly frustrated.
yeah.
Because
Right,
even us, a lot of us, and I'm not saying we're all pros or anything, but most of us are, pretty good players. And I mean, we're getting our freaking rear ends handed to us in the CTE because of
in close quarters, man, like the tables are turned. It's not a case anymore of like you can get some lucky shots on someone. If someone gets the drop on you, you go down. You don't get a chance to respond anymore.
nope.
It's how it should be to a point. It's a lot more twitch and reflex based in the CTE.
Yes,
Which
it
is a
You
good.
have-
I think
you
that's a
have to
great
have some
thing, though.
wits.
I mean,
Yeah,
don't
for
you guys
sure.
agree? That's a really good thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I wanna
I
be
do
able-
absolutely agree.
I think it would make people slow down because right now it kind of feels like you can be a little coddish in the way that you move. You don't
Yeah.
have to use cover as much. And if you were gonna die instantly or the cover really worked to keep you alive, then
Yeah.
it would
Like
be
that cover.
it would be fantastic. People would play a little slower, a little more tactical, and that's more fun. For at least for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I was speaking to someone about it the other day. Like, Battlefield 2 was very slow. You use cover, you move from cover to cover, because that's how you do it.
Yeah.
And then with Battlefield 4 so far, you could run down the middle of a corridor, with people shooting at you from all sides, and you'd be relatively safe for most of it because most of the rounds wouldn't be registering on you. But now in the CTE, if you run down the middle of a corridor and someone opens up on you, you really need to duck into a corner very quickly, or you're going down. Like, it's a dramatic change in the speed that you go down. Instead of every 4 of 15 rounds registering as a hit, it's sort of 4 of the first 6 register as a hit, and you go down.
I describe it. The best way to describe it is if you're a hardcore player in the retail in Battlefield 4, that is now what normal feels like.
Oh yeah,
wow!
I can't even imagine what hardcore's like.
Hardcore is basically one shot kill and you're done.
Yeah, it's gonna be 1 or 2 hits and you're down. Which is, that's pretty fucking hardcore, I have to say.
Yeah.
If you want a hardcore experience, that is gonna fulfill that for you. But me and Pun, we said the other day to each other, we both fear that this might separate the community to a point.
Yep.
That there's gonna be people like us who we're pretty good players, we can hold our own, where we're gonna be able to adjust to it and we're gonna thrive on that sort of twitch feeling. But there's also gonna be people that, instead of understanding that rounds are actually registering now, they're going to think that they're just getting insta-killed all the time, when really it's just the game reacting how it should have back when it first came out.
So do you think it's gonna hurt the community then? I mean, do you think it's gonna hurt the numbers?
I don't know about numbers, but there's going to be an awful lot more crying on Battlelog.
Yeah. There's going to be a large separation between skilled and non-skilled players.
Yeah.
Which a lot of the skilled players are wanting. But
we'll thrive on it. But then people that do play it casually, people that don't grind hundreds of hours into the game, they're not really going to stand a chance.
I mean, that's how I felt starting to play Counter-Strike. But after I worked, I'm serious. I mean, it felt like I was trying to describe this to Justin. It was like trying to learn to play basketball. You've never played basketball ever, and you're trying to play against the U.S. Olympic team, and they're playing their hardest. That's what it felt like every time I played the game, But so what? After a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks in, it's like, okay, I was starting to get it, and
you can adjust to it. You can retrain.
Yeah,
But
and
a lot of people, if they're not willing to, a lot of people are just gonna say, "Oh my god, the netcode's even worse. They're getting one-shotted." When really, they're not counting the rounds. They're getting hit 3-4 times. But it's happened in such quick succession that they think it's just one round.
And they haven't adjusted from the current playstyle, which is just run and gun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Battlefield, I truly believe that if the CTE changes get balanced properly, and then come to the release build, the normal retail build, it really will go back to what sort of Battlefield 2 was like to a point.
I don't know about you guys, but doesn't that seem kind of cooler?
For sure.
I mean, it seems like I remember when I switched from COD over to Bad Company 2, and I felt like, I know this is gonna sound really bad, but I felt like it was cooler. It was just I'm a cooler gamer for liking this game more. You know what I mean?
In Battlefield games of days gone by, it was sort of you moved cover to cover, you moved from wall to wall, you ducked down behind cover. And you had to play it smart. You played it methodically. Whereas
and
at the moment,
stayed together.
Squads played together, and the commander communicated, the squads communicated between each other. It was truly amazing to play back then.
Well,
going from casual playing computer games by myself, to then playing things like Battlefield 2, where you've got 32 guys watching your back and all communicating. It was mind blowing. But
that was an amazing spawn I just had. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would prefer that, and I know that sucks that it could pull the popularity down. Like maybe people, it would get, I don't know, it would become less mainstream, but that is
Yeah.
more interesting to me. You know, as a
Battlefield was never
yeah.
really a mainstream game when I think of it.
yeah, but
You know,
that's a problem probably for DICE and EA though, don't you think?
Oh, it's a problem. It's a problem from sales points. But you know, Battlefield 2, Battlefield 1942, they were massive selling games. They were AAA titles, but they were PC only back then. It had to. If you weren't a PC gamer, you didn't really know about it. Everyone else was playing like Medal of Honor on the consoles, which was me. And then then I switched to PC and started playing Battlefield. And it was very niche. It wasn't like quick, and it wasn't easy to get into. It was a real grind.
Yeah.
But it was something that once you got into, like, it became really addictive.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's
They might
that's
lose some
supposed to
numbers,
be Battlefield.
but-
I feel, you know, like that's
Exactly.
you know, hop on Call of Duty. If you got half an hour at lunch, you smoke a bowl, you're gonna go back to
Yep.
work
Mhm.
at McDonald's. Kill some noobs.
Absolutely.
That's super generalizing. I'm basically literally talking about my brother. But anyway, you know, hop on Battlefield if you've got 4 or 5 friends that you guys want to squad up and, you know, play roles and have this epic
Yeah.
battle. But
You know, at the moment, since sort of like Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, like a lot of people that want to play like that, myself included, have gone more for like Armor, DayZ, that sort of thing, where it is more difficult, it's more immersive. Sorry about that, guys.
Jerk.
But you know, you go for those really hardcore immersive games,
Yeah.
but they are such a learning curve that there needs to be that middle ground, and that's what Battlefield used to be.
Yep.
And it'd be nice if it returned to that sort of point. And the changes in the CTE, like, to me, they really feel like that.
Very cool.
Yep, I agree with that.
yeah, I'm hoping it eventually gets there. You know, they've always got a little bit of work to do. You know, what's the downside? We talked about like splitting up the community. What are the other downsides of this kind of separated environment?
I think one of the things that I've noticed, and this is actually another question in the chat, somebody was asking about what about high ping players.
Yeah.
I think
notice
that
it.
you notice it a lot. I think the high ping players have even more of an advantage in the CTE now.
Really?
Than
Yeah, for
oh
sure.
yeah, yeah. They'll
Mikey's
get
gonna
shots off
love
on you
it.
in no time.
Because they basically are not rendering where they're actually at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, they're transferring at 30 hertz, but they're, like, sort of 120 milliseconds behind you. So, like, at the moment, the servers are either Europe or West Coast, so people on the East Coast are kind of screwed either way.
Like me.
Yeah, they ping pretty much the same to either Europe or the West Coast servers, and they just get outgunned on both setups. Well, we get outgunned by them on both setups, and it will, for multinational communities like ours, it could become quite difficult.
Yeah. It's going to come to where you're going to see a lot more server admins running ping limiters
Yeah,
to keep
yeah.
the
I said
pings
that to
down
someone
low.
the
To
other
keep
day.
it balanced, yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
is that typically how other like competitive games are as well, though?
in competitive games, like, your ping really does like influence it.
I mean,
But
do
in
they do they do
Battlefield,
things like
it's
cap
never really
it? Or,
been that.
yeah.
In some competitions, there has been caps, but
And
Yeah,
like
or
the
there
big
usually has
competition
to be
of
some
stuff, that's why they
agreement
do it
between two.
land.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
usually
yeah,
there
but
have
I'm
to
not
be
talking
some
about
agreement
that.
between
yeah.
two teams to,
yeah,
you know, if there's a high ping problem, then you know.
yeah.
they
Like,
have
if
to
you've got
agree
an
to keep
American
going.
on your team, like in European leagues, you have to sort of like clear it with the other team and the admins first, and say like, well, he's our fifth,
Mhm.
but he is a Yank, so like we
Yeah.
apologise in advance.
Interesting.
But there is a real
It's like
noticeable difference.
Okay.
Like how we apologize for Pikey.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
sorry guys, we know he's offensive, and we know he pings
Just
at
a little bit
250,
off.
but he's one of ours.
And he can sing terribly.
And
No.
he can sing, yeah.
Dude, seriously, I had to listen to him for about 3 hours the other night trying to sing "Let It Go."
Yeah. He wouldn't let it go, would he?
Is that the?
Oh.
the
Yeah, from Frozen.
oh yeah. Okay.
How's
Yeah.
it
I
go
got
again?
the joy of watching that like 3 times over the last few days.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and
That's
I enjoyed listening to a drunk South African try to sing it. That was interesting.
Oh, Pikey. All right. Well, kind of deviating off the community test environment. Did you guys hear about the old Battlefield games being
I
abandoned?
know, I'm
with GameSpy?
heartbroken.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What's that?
So
1942,
GameSpy is going away.
1942 has already been patched by the community.
Oh,
I'm happy to say the community have already released a patch which diverts away from GameSpy servers to a custom setup. There's one in the works for Battlefield 2 as well, which also comes with some community fixes which were never implemented in patch 1.5 for Battlefield 2. I imagine there might be one for Battlefield Vietnam, the sort of runt of the Battlefield litter, which no one really played apart from me.
Well, if it's Bad Company 2 Vietnam.
No, there was Battlefield Vietnam long before
I know.
that.
Yeah.
But I imagine there's one in the works for for 2142, sorry, as well. But
Yeah.
Well,
it's-
EA, I thought EA had come out and said that they're
they
going
said
to.
they were trying to, yeah. But then they sort of, I think they just changed their tune on it.
Yeah, I think they just said that they're not putting that as a priority or something.
Yeah, it's not a priority for them. Like if the developers get round to it, then they will. But they announced the closure, and then they said we're going to try to work on it, and then they published a list of games which would be shut down, and it was all the ones that they said that they were going to try to like save, which was a bit counterintuitive. But you know, the Battlefield community coming out strong as usual and releasing community patches.
That's pretty awesome, man. It is.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of other games involved in it as well. There's I think the old Medal of Honor's involved in it.
Yep.
Ooh.
The old ones, I think some of the Need for Speed games will be involved in it as well. I think Battlefront 2 is involved in it as well. A lot of iconic games from both EA and DICE will be involved in the closures.
Yeah, and these are people, people still play these games, and
Yep.
people still rent servers for these games.
Oh yeah, like Battlefield 1942, Battlefield 2, they're still massively popular because of the mod community.
That's it. Yeah. Project Reality. Oh my God, man.
Yeah, PR man. Oh, no game has ever frustrated me so much as Project Reality.
Did you ever play Battletoads?
No. I think I'm
Or
too
Ghosts
young
and
for that.
Goblins?
No, I'm definitely too young for that.
Yeah.
But
Like he's
I-
8-year-old.
Yeah.
Just quick cursory glance at the VC2 stats. Right now, there's roughly 2,000 players online across 3 systems.
really,
That's not bad.
it's more. It's not as many as I would have thought, considering how many people still talk about it. But at the same time, it is sort of expected.
Yeah.
This is a bad time too, though, because you figure most of the time they're online is probably around, I would say, 2 my time.
That is
So it
true.
would be about 7 o'clock UK. So this time's kind of a poor time for everybody because of
Yeah, I
Americans.
remember reinstalling it maybe 18 months ago with my best friend, and like we both like played it for a couple of days. There wasn't many servers that were like consistently like populated, but it was still really fun to get back into and play Battlefield Bad Company 2 Vietnam again.
That's sad. That music.
That was
I
maybe,
know.
I gotta say, that was maybe the best they've done.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that DLC.
That was
just,
my to play. It may not have been the most technically sound of all of them, or whatever you want to say, but it was the most fun Battlefield experience I've had.
Yeah, it was good. The maps were really good.
The maps
I
were
liked it a lot.
awesome, except there were a couple of choke points here and there, but the limited number of guns, the music, sort of just the little things they did.
Toss
There
that
was a lot
dynamite.
of nuances in that game.
Dynamite.
Toss
Throwing
that dynamite.
dynamite.
Yeah, throwing dynamite, taking down helis with a non-lock-on rocket. You know, like not having to worry.
It was
That's the
just-
things I liked about that. Is it, it was
Like
simpler.
2 sniper rifles that were really simplified rifle. They were just rifles with scopes on them. They weren't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can shoot you from a million miles away, and I'm gonna sit on a boat off,
Yeah.
and spawn and
people
try and hit
did
you with
try
a
it,
50
though.
They were less annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much less.
Yeah, they weren't
but-
good at it.
Right.
Yeah,
I
true.
mean, if somebody did it to you in that game, you had to be impressed.
Yeah.
They're still not good at it though, let's be honest.
Nah. True. I don't know. Have you seen me? Just kidding.
Yeah, I've
Are you
seen-
watching the stream? Oh man.
Hey, I'm not streaming. Only
So
doing
for,
slightly worse than
LMG
you.
hour.
for that in the future, you guys want DICE games to launch with community and test environment? Like, should it be a separate install? Hey, do you want to contribute?
I want an actual beta.
Like, does that send the wrong message? Hey, pay for this game, and
It
then
definitely sends the wrong message.
Yeah, yeah.
But for something like Armor, which is a massive, extremely complex, like simulation-based software, it makes sense to have the development branch, and they expect you to provide feedback as well. Whereas with the CTE, there's a lot of people trying to help. I will give the community credit. But there's also a lot of absolute mongoloids on the forums.
God, yes, there is.
It's like, oh my god, DICE, please fix, as the subject of the forum thread. So we're off to a good start.
I had a guy last night. I was on, and he kept complaining about the fact that he could not get his sensitivity in check, and that why is DICE pawning off all these sensitivity features on me when I don't want them. I'm like, dude, you're in a freaking CTE. You agree
This
to
is-
their...
They don't
Yeah.
get it. They think it's like, I'm
Just
gonna get
entitlement.
famous on YouTube.
There's a lot of people on the
I'm gonna
CTE
stream
forums are going, oh my god, I really don't like this, and it's like, well,
That's
why
not
did
feedback.
you opt in
Yeah.
to an opt-in only system if you're not gonna help? They are desperately trying to fix their product. They are listening to us, and all you have to provide is, oh my god, this is so bad, it's worse. It's like,
And
how
people
is it
love to-
worse?
they love to
What
complain,
what have
yeah.
they changed?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Well,
that's
I was
they
good
don't
at
know
it
how to
yesterday. I'm
QA.
not as good today.
Yeah. So, oh my
Like,
god,
hey,
I
this is
had a
what
round
happened.
yesterday and it was amazing, but today it was terrible. It must be the game. It's like, maybe you're just having a bad day. Take a chill pill.
Nope.
No, it's
Blame
the
DICE.
game because I'm terrible at
DICE.
this game.
DICE, please fix.
Yeah, something. Fix your fucking game.
Yeah. But
I think, though, I don't think they should limit it to premium players. But there's got to be some kind of shit filter. There
That-
really needs to
Yeah.
be.
there needs to be a limit. There needs to be a sort of
There should be
a requirement.
Well, I wouldn't say a requirement. There should be we're removing you from from this testing environment. Based on like
Thanks for coming
the
out.
types of comments you make,
Yeah.
whether
You're a douche.
you're actually being helpful.
We
Oh,
figured
they could
out
do
you're
like
not
the
really a
server
fan.
Yeah.
Well, not even that. Like you might be a fan, but you have no idea how to actually like help improve the product.
That's true.
I think
Like you're not
it,
offering
it would help.
suggestions.
Yeah.
You're not
I've
talking
got a lot
about
of
what's
experience
actually
with
wrong.
beta testing games. I was in the beta test for Call of Duty 4, for World at War, for like all the old Call of Duties. I've been in the development builds for the Armor games and DayZ and all that, and I know how to provide feedback in like a reasonable manner. But I think I'd like that to be a sort of requirement for it. I'd like people with previous beta experience to like maybe get priority.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like if like people like me who have got literally thousands of hours in the Battlefield franchise, I kind of know what I'm talking about. Whereas you got people that have got Battlefield 4 and got Premium and were the
that
quickest, were the quickest to opt in.
Yeah, that have $110 to spend and
Yeah.
time on their hands.
It's really annoying seeing these people that have very little experience who have opted in and they're like, oh my god, like, oh, this is just worse.
Oh, it's broken.
How is it worse? Like you have to give some sort of feedback on how it's worse, how
What
it's
did you do
changed.
to do something that broke the game?
Yeah.
And can you replicate it? And
Exactly, it has to be replicatable.
Every time
if you
I
wanted to
shot, I
post
die.
video, you know, that you shadow played part of the game, and here's where it's at, so you can see it.
If they can't replicate it, then there's no way to fix it. Saying, oh, it's worse, just does not help in any way. I
Now
think
it's
they already know
pre-order
it's
the
quite
game.
bad. Yeah, exactly. Pre-order to get into like the CTE Battlefield 5.
Yeah.
But that doesn't
God,
really
we
pre-orders
just
don't
suggested
mean anything
that to
anymore.
them. No,
I know. Please, anyone from DICE
Pre-order might be
watching,
like
just don't.
the bane of gaming soon.
Yeah,
It might
think
end up
it already
being
is.
worse than like microtransactions.
Have
The
you guys seen Watch
microtransactions
Dogs?
are optional.
To get
As
all
long
the
as it
Watch
doesn't
Dog
give you
things, you
advantage,
need to
yeah.
spend like $1,200 to get all
Oh.
the different Watch Dogs pre-order bonuses.
What's it called? One of those train simulator games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we worked
Train
it out.
Tycoon?
Yeah, I think it's just Train Simulator 2013 or 2014. To buy all the DLC for that game costs like multiple thousands of dollars. And it's like, you must really like trains to spend that much.
Yeah.
But
I really, really do.
I don't know, like we were saying, would we like sort of like the CTE system for games in the future as sort of like a standard? I think putting it as a standard is sort of like a get out of jail free card for some of the development studios. So it's like, oh well, if it's not like how it should be, they'll pick it up in the CTE and we can work on it.
Yeah. But
know-
mark shippable.
Yeah, really, I'd like them to just like do everything in their power to get the game out in a proper state instead of relying on us to fix it. But
Yeah,
if
yeah.
there are problems, then yes, like a system like this could work. Like, it's worked for Armor for years. It works for DayZ. You know, it's a tried and tested system. But as sort of like standards, yeah,
Is a
it-
AAA title, like, it's
yeah,
kind of weird.
It's troublesome.
What do you guys think, the fact that they're even doing it? Does that mean that they really care about the game, or they're worried that the PR is so bad they need to... Do you think, which direction do you think it is? Do you think
It's
they
a little
really
of
are...
both.
It's 50-50.
Yeah.
Like,
You
we
know-
have to show that we're working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got another game coming out, in a couple weeks here at E3. They don't want the backlash of, oh, it's based on Battlefield? Okay, well, I'm definitely
Exactly.
buying that.
I mean,
You know, when-
yeah, because you want to
Well,
think that...
Battlefield,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Battlefront 3 coming out like end of the year next year. You know, it's built on the same engine, built by the same company. You know, it doesn't fill you with a lot of trust. I think some of it is definitely PR. You know, they're trying to repair some of the damage that they've done.
Yeah. But you
then
want to
some
believe
of
that
it-
they're really gamers, too, and they do want their game to be
Yeah.
good. They
Oh,
do
yeah.
feel...
Well, no, you don't want to work at a place that's putting out a shit product.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when you see the guys that are actually working on CTE, the guy David who actually like runs the operation from DICE LA, he communicates on the forums a lot. He interacts. Jacob, one of the QA guys from DICE in Sweden, he's in charge of it as well. I've spoken to him like quite a few times on Twitter about problems. He's quite transparent with stuff. Like if he can give information, he does. So they've definitely got people there which do care and who do want us to, like the end users, to get the game we were promised.
Yep.
but there's definitely some damage
Oh yeah.
Control?
limitation there. Yeah, there's damage control, damage limitation there for sure. You know, it's not good for stockholders that have a lot riding on it, knowing that the next like big AAA title from the studio coming out is built on exactly the same system.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, it's gonna be Frostbite. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's like Battlefront 3 is built on Frostbite 3. Yeah. So exactly the same system as this.
Well, the
Same
game looks
company.
beautiful.
Oh yeah, it
It sounds great.
Yeah.
It looks outstanding, but you know, so does Battlefield 4.
It
So
sure
it's-
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's gonna take a lot for me to pre-order another thing from DICE, like a substantial. Like I'm gonna have to see some gameplay that blows my mind, and not a quick cut together trailer.
I'd really like a hands-on, to be honest.
I'd
You
like
know,
that. I'd like a handoff myself. You know what I mean?
hands-on, not hand job, Chris. God, man.
I'd like your hands on me.
Yeah, but you know, like if as sort of like a sign of good faith
Behind
and
you
maybe
guys on the flag.
a change in like business practice, if we did actually get a proper demo, not like a beta masked as a demo or a demo masked as a beta. If they gave us sort of like a week to play the game, even if it wasn't the full game, if they just gave us some time to play it and make our own mind up, not based on like PC Gamer Review or IGN or something like this, just let us actually play it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. What if you had just I don't know, like one map. It's like 10 versus 10 or something. You just download that map and it's just those guns. And everybody
Yeah.
plays it. That's it. You know, is that a small enough? Like, you can't even call it beta. Let's just call it demos. Like, when are we going to get back to demos?
Man,
Yeah.
I missed that. You know, when I used to play the PlayStation 2, you know, I bought games based on demos that I got with other games or magazines. You know, now it's the hype train. It's Twitter.
Believe the
it's yeah, believe the hype, man. It's Twitter. It's YouTube. It's like, oh my god, this game is the next
Advertising.
big thing. You have to buy it.
Yeah.
So we buy it, and then it turns out to be broke as shit.
And we rage about it. And we get views
Yeah.
from that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
We do videos about a picture of a next release.
no, like if we got just like some time to test it ourselves, not rely on like 500,000 subscriber YouTubers to test it for us, who are like taking backhanders from like,
Right.
the company themselves.
That was a disaster.
You know, like you've
Yeah.
got, like, I won't say names and all that, but you've got guys saying, I'm not being paid to say this on videos which they are being paid to say it.
Except
Yeah,
I'm
it-
making money off the video that I'm.
You know, it's
Right.
it's a bit dodgy, that practice.
Well, didn't they get a bunch of like Call of Duty players to play this when it launched? And we're like,
yeah,
oh, it's
Call of
amazing.
Duty
And like, you don't
Oh,
know
I got
the
invited
game.
to E3. And there was a bunch of people, and they made some crappy video about it, and that's it. They got paid for it. Boom, done.
You know, because
Now,
they
to be
know.
fair, that wasn't fully DICE EA. That was a marketing offshoot that deals strictly
Yeah.
with YouTube. But yeah, it was a giant waste of money to fly us there, play 3 games, and leave.
Yeah.
They know the market
I
though.
know everything about the game now.
Yeah, they know the market though. They know that they'll get more sales if they appeal to the Call of Duty market,
Yeah. Well, it's
And-
all.
and it works. You know, like Battlefield
Easy.
3, Battlefield 4, they've been the biggest selling Battlefield games.
Totally
Because they
works. There's a
have-
lot of snipers on the hills. Trust me, it works.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. The hype is real.
Yeah.
Hype is real. Yeah.
That's why
But-
there's a 20x scope in the game.
There's a 40x scope in the game, mate.
Oh,
Yeah, 40.
jeez. See how much I know about that?
Yeah.
It's often.
That was
The
a
fo-
test.
Test.
The
Yeah.
40 times scope is so long, I actually feel nauseous when I try to use it.
You got
Like,
scope.
Yeah.
you move it ever so slightly,
Oh, there's a phrase
but
I want to say right
it's
now.
like
but-
being on like the most turbulent flight you can imagine. It is horrible.
Yeah.
It's just so long. It's painful to
Indeed.
use.
Takes
But, you
a lot
know-
of getting used to.
You know, people in Battlefield 3, they said it would be great if we had like longer sniper rifles so we could provide like a proper like sniper coverage, and we got that.
That
And
is the latest
With every
excuse.
single one, though.
Yeah.
With a sniper rifle that's not a one-hit kill.
it's I don't
Yeah,
even
that is.
understand.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
Like, they
Oh,
put 40 cals in. Great. There you go.
So you
know,
can
like-
see into people's souls with this scope.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yes.
you
You
can.
can't kill them.
Yeah.
But you can't actually kill them when...
Unless you
When you
hit,
hit
them,
them in the
like
face.
like square between the eyes.
Yeah.
You're gonna do like at the sort of range that you use a 40 times scope. You'll do maybe like 55 damage to them, which is
Oh,
not
Bo.
a lot.
What is this dark hole that I'm scoped in on? Oh, that's the player's anus. Oh.
Yes.
Look, it's his mouth.
It's his,
Put
it's
6
his
shots in
goggles
there.
on top of his head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just curious, as being someone that didn't actually get to participate in the CTE, because I'm too slow and busy. But
I wasn't even aware it was going on.
when you were playing it,
Yeah.
I mean, it did just for were you like, were you like, yes, this is it, or
Yes,
were you like?
yes, I climaxed when I started playing it.
I mean, same for you, Punisher. I mean, were you guys?
At first it was a bit of a struggle. I had to readjust to it because I'm so used to just like normal retail Battlefield 4.
Mm-hmm.
But I quickly adjusted to it. Like it was sort of like adjusting how far you lead your target, mostly for me. I don't know if it's the same for Pun, but
Pun, you there? Punisher.
I think
thi-
Pun's dead.
Yeah.
Did you hear the question? Were you listening to the dude's story?
No, go. I'm sorry. Say again.
I was just curious. Did you? I mean, when you were playing the CTE, were you like, hell yeah, this is what I want it to be like, you know, or at least somewhat? Or were you like, yeah, you know? I was curious.
When patch 2 came out and they implemented the 30 hertz tick rate, I was really happy at that point. I was like, man, I mean, you know, with that, I was, you know, loving it, and I was doing okay, you know. But when they came out with patch 3 and they came out with the sensitivity feature, I struggled, and I was,
Yeah.
I mean, I was freaking raging because I could not figure out my
I still haven't
sensitivity.
changed
I could
that.
not. Oh, God, it's bad. I mean, I think I have finally started to get a handle on it after understanding what they were doing. Because I didn't, you know, when I first looked at it, I had no freaking clue what each of the new features meant. You know,
Yeah.
what did they actually do?
The guy that implemented it, the guy that actually coded it, had to do like a massive post on Battlelog to actually explain how it works, because it's so just sort of like, I don't know what this means.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, what we're talking about, there's a feature called unified soldier aiming, which it's sort of like the sensitivity between like your normal soldier and ADS and all of these different like view modes and such, and it's sort of like just unified sensitivity between them all. And I was so confused by it that I left it as the standard, like just as it was as it downloaded, and I've just left it at that. Well, I seem to be doing alright, so it can't be that bad. But there's a massive thread on the CTE forums like trying to explain how it works.
Yeah. In simple form, though, what it does is you turn that function on, and then right below that you have a sensitivity adjustment, and it's in percentage. And that when you turn that feature on, it defaults at 100%, which means that your ADS and your hipfire aiming are the same speed.
Huh.
So if you want to increase your if you want to have slower hip fire than you would have aim down sight, then you would actually take that percentage and increase it to like 120, 110, something like that. And that would actually speed up your aim down sight, whereas your hip fire would be normal. Or if you actually, like me, I want aim down sight to be slower, I have my set to 75%.
For me, it's like I have
But
my
that doesn't-
ADS faster,
Yeah.
but
that doesn't make sense to me. You mean the gunfire rate you can tweak?
no, your aiming rate.
Aiming.
So you're like, okay, you're back and
Yeah.
forth. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty normal.
It stems from a lot of us asked for an individual slider for adjusting the speed of our ADS,
Yeah.
our ADS
Yeah.
sensitivity,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
lot of games have. But instead of just adding a slider for ADS sensitivity, they came up with unified aiming, which
just
is
threw everybody off.
yeah. I saw it and it was like unified aiming, and I was just like, now let's just leave that as it is for now until I've woken up, had some tea, and read the forums,
Yeah.
because it's very badly explained on the forums and in the game, because it's still a work in progress like system. I think it would be easier and it would go down better if they just added a slider for like ADS.
Spoonful of sugar.
Like if they
Yeah.
just gave us a slider for
Yeah.
ADS speed,
Yeah.
as we all asked for.
Set your
but they-
sensitivity and then set your ADS speed and be done with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Like,
give us
but
what people want.
in traditional DICE fashion, instead of doing it the simple way,
They're
they've
gonna do it better.
overcomplicated it, and it works. Credit where it's due, it does work. It's just
Once-
a real pain in the ass to understand.
Yep. Once you figure it out, it makes sense. But you're like, God,
Yeah,
there's
good
gotta
luck
be a
figuring it
simpler way
out.
to say this.
It's like loads of the features in the game. Like it's all a bit like WTF. But then once you actually like get the hang of it, once it makes sense, it's like, oh yeah, and you can set it up as easy as anything once you've figured it. But it's getting to that point.
So yeah, it was a couple days after the third patch came out, it was really just, I was so freaking hot, man. I just couldn't understand. I was like, crap, I just can't get a handle on it. And then people that do have a handle on it just absolutely own you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's guys in there that are, 4 to 5 to 1 KDR. It's just freaking killing everybody in close quarters.
But one thing I will say, like saying that, the guns now, like everybody says that the guns are all too similar. They're all very the same. There's no point in like splitting between them. The guns now, to me, they feel very different to each other. The different gun styles, they have very specific roles now. Like in CQB, like up close, you're better off with something like an AEK, FAMAS, like something with a high rate of fire, because you need that twitch reflex up close with the new hit reg. Whereas sort of like mid-range, you'll be better off with like the CZ805 or the SAR-21, like more stable based guns. Like DMRs are better at range. Like it's definitely helped the game in that respect. But it's
Those all sound pretty good to me.
it's definitely helped. Like it's added some differential between the guns.
Yeah. Cool.
There's
The problem is with the CT right now is that everybody's playing the same guns because they all realize that you need, especially like in this, close quarters, you got everybody's playing AEK, or you got everybody playing the freaking Scar H because of its high damage.
It's very much like watching Battlefield's ESL 1 tournaments.
Yep.
You've got guys sort of like staying back a bit and they're using Scar H's for the damage. But you've got guys like pushing the front and they've got AEKs, Ace 23s, like faster firing weapons. Which makes sense, but where it's limited to only a few maps at the moment, we're not really seeing the potential of all the guns come out.
So what you're saying is those like 150,000 hours I put in watching gun reviews on YouTube are all for naught?
I
they're gonna have to
apologise, my
remake 'em?
friend, but it's true.
Yeah.
Ah, guys, I
Yeah,
was
they're
what a-
definitely
put
going
one
to have
up.
to redo 'em.
What a gold mine!
What about the 5v5 comp obliteration mode? Have y'all had a chance to play it?
Yeah, that's. I love the idea of it. I was one of the people that broke the story that it was actually being released. I didn't realise it was going to be released in such a poor state of affairs, though.
Oh, yeah.
It's if you're more than 20 meters from someone, your bullet doesn't inflict any damage. There's parts
makes
of
perfect
the
sense.
maps which you can get out of and run forever until you reach the physical end of the map.
I've seen pictures of that. That's really, really funny to me.
Yeah, there's
Speaking of which, I'm
there-
going to
there's
put my
an image
video
of
out that I did
Can
on
you
that.
shoot through the wall back into the map?
No, there's an imager gallery. These guys, they got out the map and they decided to go for a run, and they ran for literally like 15 minutes.
Yeah. All the
And
way
it
to the
was-
edge of the map. There was no textures. It just kind of just ended.
Just flat.
Yeah, you go from like the normal map, and then the further out you get, the textures get worse and worse because you're only going to be seeing it from a plane. And it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and then it just ends, and you see where the skybox from the top wraps around underneath the map as well, and it just ends.
Huh.
So, I like the idea of 5v5, like close quarters obliteration, but they do have some work to do before it's going to be taken seriously. It's sort of in the same state of affairs that Defuse was when the game first came out. Defuse, which is basically search and destroy. The counter didn't work properly. It would end randomly. It would say one team's won, even though they hadn't. I've got a video somewhere of the bomb being set at the end of one round as the enemy team got killed.
Oh yeah, I saw
The
that.
bomb
and
the
then it
bomb
goes
plant
off.
carried on onto the next round, and we won the next round because I planted the bomb on the round previously. So it's obliteration 5v5 is currently in that state at the moment, but hopefully it's something they can work on. But
Oh, nobody has ever played it before they released it.
exactly, they released it, like they released it without the developers' like real knowledge. It was developed by Firewall, Dennis Bramwell, I think his name is. It was developed by him for competitive gaming, and it was released in a patch like before before he knew it was going to be released. So there was a few like bugs included, and it's a server variable essentially. It's just an on-off switch which takes it from like normal obliteration to small obliteration. And people complained that like obliteration was broken when server like admins hadn't turned it back to normal obliteration. It had got stuck on small obliteration. And yeah, things haven't really improved since then. If anything, it's got a bit worse because now you can just sort of like go on epic adventures.
Epic Adventure.
Well, that's
It's-
the next
it really
game, right?
is.
Battlefield 5, Epic Adventures.
Epic
Like
Adventures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's they've
It's an open
obliteration
world.
small is essentially
world.
Daisy.
You have to build your own base.
Yeah.
Construct
Obliteration
your own
small is
guns.
Daisy. You just run for 15 minutes until you reach the end of the map, and then you starve to death.
You start with a sharp
And there's
stick.
no mini map, so
Yeah.
the whole
And you
game is
don't
just trying to find people.
You find a can of food, but you cannot open it.
Yes, basically. But one thing, I don't really know how it works. It's to do with the tick rate. It's extremely complex. I haven't read up enough on it.
Oh, I know how it works.
What, the 30 hertz in a limited bubble thing?
Are you talking about? Well, I thought you were talking about the feature where they are actually able to adjust it.
No, I know how that works, and it's kind of broke. It shouldn't be a feature. It really shouldn't be fixed at 30, in my opinion. But there's the tick rate change up to 30 or 20 or whatever you have it set at only works in a 150 meter bubble. So you only receive 30 hertz data from players within a 150-meter bubble to your location.
That's not enough.
So if the player is outside of that and you're shooting at them, you're getting their data at like 10 hertz, which is like the standard.
Oh, that makes no sense.
Yeah, so you're getting the data slower, so you might not be getting their true 100% accurate position, which it cuts down on like data usage, of course, but it also means that outside of 150 meters range, your accuracy could be dead on, you could be too far ahead, you could be behind them. That person may have died in 1876 and you're actually seeing their ghost.
Do you think it's because the game is so... is it because it's, like, robust? And if it was simpler, they could do it? Or does it have some other reason? I mean, that's the only thing I could think of why it's like that. Like, they just haven't figured out how to render all these pretty caverns into... fast enough, you know?
I think at this
was
point they're
thinking-
kind of afraid to maybe do it.
Yeah, I think if they set it as 30 hertz across the board, across the map, you know, that's 64 players transmitting at 30 hertz to the server.
Yeah.
So, like 45 kilobytes per second times 64, and you've got that same data transmission, like 64 like times 45 kilobytes from the server to the clients as well. You know, it rapidly builds up, and I think they're worried for people with limited bandwidth, like basically pikey at this point.
Yeah.
But it's
They're dumb.
yeah, it's I understand how they're doing it. I understand why they're doing it to a point. But I
Well, they
think
want it to be
it's
accessible to, you know,
Exactly.
all, they don't want to be like broadband only.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
It's not as
kind
good
of
sales
odd.
position.
Yeah, they want it to be accessible for everyone. I understand it. I know why they're doing it, but it just doesn't feel right. The 30 hertz improvement is massive. Like once you adjust to like compensating, like tracking your target properly, according to 30 hertz instead of 10, like the difference is astounding. Like me and Paul both said after we first tried it that it's just amazing to play. But then when you think that outside of that radius they're gonna be a lot slower or whatever, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Why would they do that? You know, it's only like 30 kilobytes per second difference. Granted, it does rack up when it's like 128 like communications like going on at once at 30 hertz per second. But it's 30 kilobytes, you know? It's a massive change. Like DMRs at mid-range, they don't feel right. Like you guys know that I like my DMRs. At mid-range, they don't feel right. If the target's stationary, you know, I can pick them off 3 shots. That's it. They're down. It's not a problem. But if they're moving, I'm tracking them properly. I know how to track targets on this game now. But it don't hit them properly. Like you're either hitting behind them or in front of them, or it's odd. There's a discussion going on about it at the moment on the CTE forums, but we're all trying to put our finger on it. Or like the DMR users that are in the CTE at the moment, we're trying to figure out what's wrong with it. And I brought it to David from Dice LA's attention, and he's looking into it as well now. But I don't fully understand how the bubble thing works, but doesn't fill me with that much confidence, you know?
Yeah.
That within 150 meters, I'm going to have pinpoint accurate 100% 30 hertz data transmission, and I'll be able to like ream everyone in sight. but as soon as they step outside that 150-meter barrier, it's just a free for all. It could hit them, it might not. It doesn't really matter. It's worrying to me as like a mid-range player. Like for sniping, DMRs, anything like that, it's a bit odd. Don't understand the logic behind it. Like practicality, like yeah, data transmissions, all that, but the actual logic of, oh yeah, we'll just limit this, it'll be fine, when it won't be, when a lot of engagement on Battlefield is mid-range. But
Very
yeah, I don't fully,
interesting.
yeah, I don't fully understand it.
So then, what does that mean for like sniping? Is it
It's
sniping is even less viable?
Yeah, sniping is less viable, especially at longer range, because you know, if you're running around quick scoping people, being like aggressive recon, like uber amazing, you know, it's gonna work for you. But as soon as you're sniping, like putting down fire at 400, 500 meters on like moving targets, and it's anyone's guess. It might hit them, it might not. No one really knows.
I think I'm
Hopefully
actually
they-
okay with that. Just
Like-
get rid of all those guys that
It's sitting
do
the
that
spawn.
crap.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take care of all the snipers on flood zone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that roof isn't 150 meters tall though, so like they're still within the 30 hertz bubble.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully it's just a test thing. Hopefully, like in patch 4, which we'll hopefully see soon, like they'll put it to 30 hertz across the board. But I don't know. It's odd. That's how I described it on the forums earlier. It's just odd.
Yeah.
I couldn't put my finger on what was wrong with the DMRs. They just felt odd. David asked me what was wrong with the DMRs. I said they're odd. I'm sorry, I can't give you any more. They're just odd. There's no better way for me to describe it. But yeah, that's my main concern with the CTE at the moment is that. That is the bubble system. But that could change. It could just be a temporary thing. It could be improved. It could be expanded. I don't know. I don't fully understand how it works. Pun, I see you've already linked a forum thread on it.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, that's my main concern with the CT at the moment.
So as far
How
as
that's
like
gonna play out.
this whole thing coming to a close, like are they? I mean, what's the plan? Are they going to come out? Or have they said there's definitely going to be a big patch, or is it just sort of like? Is there a date on that? Is there a?
I think. Well, they're hinting the tick rate patch will be within the sort of like next few weeks or so, maybe. But we'll probably see it with Dragon's Teeth, I would imagine, because that's when like the next main patch is going to be the next DLC, which is scheduled for next month.
Buy our game, get
Yeah.
some patches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, that to me is more of marketing. We have to hit our dates, so we're just gonna have to ship at a certain time and have a launch day
Yeah.
patch. I don't think that's going away.
Don't
No,
bring
That's
logic
just
into
a
this.
reality of gaming now.
Sorry, gun. But
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's I don't know. It's a step forward for sure. I hope it continues more logically and not just okay. Now we're changing how fast helicopters can fly. You know, like let's fix the
they
base
need
game
to do
before we
that.
start.
To be honest, as a helicopter pilot in game, they do need to up the maneuverability of the attack helicopter.
Yeah, well, I'm just
Going to
thinking
depth on
more.
Yeah,
You
it's
know, I've got a
tub.
scope that doesn't zoom in quick enough. You know,
Yeah.
like, let's
No, they need to fix the core gameplay first.
let's fix the windows before we.
And
Yeah.
you know,
paint.
they are doing it. I'll credit where credit's due. They're communicating with us. They're taking our feedback on board. Like, the actual developers are like going, okay, Beardy, what do you mean by that? Like, can you like help with that? So
Every
No.
time you tweet at Battlefield, they say they're gonna mention it to somebody.
yeah, but these guys they actually listen to you. Oh, credit where credit's due. You know, David does get back to you. Like Jacob listens.
And they're very timely about it too.
Yes, they are. I will definitely give them that.
Yeah, as
Right.
long as you're nice, they won't ban you.
Exactly.
Weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on the CTE forums that
Makes
could
no sense.
that could use a ban. I will say that a lot of them are complete mongoloids.
Yeah.
But-
Gotta be
I know a guy
constructive.
who's
And that's when you just remove them from the, the CTE.
Remove
and
them
say
from the beta.
thanks.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Give it
Yep,
to
I
someone that will
agree.
help.
you
Yeah.
are not constructive.
Yeah,
But-
like we're trying to do something you're not helping. It's not like they paid for the shit.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
granted, I think it should have happened in December when me and Pun first brought it up and when it was first mentioned in general. But it's happening now. It's progress.
Yeah, for sure. Right on, guys. Well, thanks a lot for coming and chatting. This was a long time coming. We'll have to do it more often. We want to thank everybody in the stream and in the video that we'll put up in the next couple days for watching and listening. If you have any more questions, just hit us up on Twitter, and maybe we'll do another one of these in the future. Again, thanks, guys, and we will chat to you later.
See ya, fellas.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Rifle
Scrambled eggs.
waffling.